Welcome back to The Mind of Herbert. Make sure to check out the first chapter. Subscribe for more. Chapter 2. Shrek has Pussy in Boots pinned against a tree telling his life story. It begins like this: you probably don't remember, but this is not the first time we met. We used to be best friends and make fun of the ass together. Speaking of which, where is he? Whatever, it doesn't matter. We were best friends until the accident. You don't remember any of this. The accident is the reason you have such bad memory and spells of rage. Donkey, you and I were traveling to the strip club, you know, the really good one with the girl with huge ass, and you had already found my stash of drugs. You ate all my shrooms and snorted all my coke. You were going wild. You took your dick out and fucked a tree, twice. When we got to the club, you were off the rails insane and had your ogre dick spraying ooze everywhere. You got kicked out, but you came back in 5 minutes later still naked and covered in fresh blood. No one had the guts to ask you where the blood came from. You went over to your favorite hooker and literally shoved your full head up her ass and ran around like a headless chicken. You ran straight through the wall to the private room. In the private room, Shrek attempted to get the hooker off his head but falls out the window instead. Outside that window is a cliff face where you both fell down onto the trees below. The hooker got impaled on a tree and you came out of her ass with a schlorp. You were passed out from the fall and the police took us in for murder and drug use. In prison you woke up no longer high, with a lot of questions about what happened and where we went. After realizing where we were, you went and found a heroin dealer and shot up enough heroin to overdose a cow. After loading up on drugs, you went to the showers and found a large black man fucking a little old man. You took the black guy and bent him over and stuck your large ogre penis straight into him. I have never heard a man scream so loud in my life. After you had finished, the guards came in and pulled him away on a stretcher. He was never able to walk again. Having raped the largest man, everyone had respect for you, but people still didn't like the random ass fuckings. So they ganged up on you. The leader of the gang was the Radman 80. Radman had a lead pipe, but the 5 others in the gang only had boards. You were still fueled by the heroin, so when they hit you with the various objects it did not hurt you at all. You caught the Radman's pipe and threw him across the room and smashed one of the gang members' heads in. Then took one of them and slid his face across the floor into the metal door. Then slapped one of them with your big ogre hands. It was like slow motion watching his skin peel off from the force of the slap. Then you stabbed the pipe down one of their throats. Then grabbed one of them by the upper and lower jaw and kept pulling until the person split in half. Then you went over to the Radman and bent him over the railing and took out your crispy dick and said, "What's your real name?" and stuck your dick straight through his clothes into his ass. The Radman screamed like a child. With every one of your strokes he got louder. After 15 minutes you came in his ass so hard that the green cum came out his mouth and nose. That was the 11th murder you committed. After the guards watched helplessly at what your rage could do, they finally locked you away in solitary confinement. This was a mistake. When the drugs wore off you wanted more, but you couldn't get any more. Each day you got worse and worse until you tore down the metal. The dying cat says, "Here, take this." Pussy hands Shrek a card and then takes his final breath. Shrek throws the now lifeless cat and looks at the address on the card. He says to himself, "Now this is where I will get my answers." Shrek now goes to the address on the card, hoping to find answers. Shrek then decides to make a meal of the dead cat and starts a fire. As Shrek is cooking the cat, he attracts the attention of the fireman. The fireman approaches Shrek from behind and attempts to subdue him. Shrek, being much stronger than the fireman, throws him at a tree. The audible crack of the fireman's spine snapping can be heard throughout the forest. Shrek then picks up a giant boulder and smashes the fireman's head. He then collects the brains and adds it to his cat stew. The next morning Shrek heads off to the address from the card. Along the way he encounters one of his lost children. His child runs to him and says that he is the last survivor. They had got launched into the orphanage and set it on fire, killing all the children. Nobody dared to enter to rescue them, seeing the ogre babies and remembering when Shrek had clubbed an orphan with his dick and fractured his skull. The last ogre baby had survived due to taking enough orphan body parts to have food. And jumping into the river, getting taken downstream where someone helped him find Shrek. Shrek asked who and the child hesitated. Shrek then began on his quest again, taking his last child along, asking again, who helped him. The ogre child then confesses that him being there was a trap and he led another bounty hunter to him. Shrek, hearing this, had no hesitation and punched his child so hard that his skin instantly vaporized, leaving a big hole in his left pec. Shrek then stomps his child repeatedly, over and over until his child was completely buried in the dirt. Then, a missile comes from the woods and strikes Shrek in the back. His ogre body, absorbing the blast, turns to see Boba Fett behind him. Shrek then battles with Boba Fett, neither managing to strike each other. Shrek eventually gets the upper hand when he uses his dick to slap Boba's jetpack while Boba was doing a spin move. Boba Fett then started flying uncontrollably and Shrek grabbed him, dick in his ass so he could control Boba. He then pointed Boba at the direction he needed to go and took a free ride to the address he needed to go to. He then ripped the jetpack apart like a piece of paper and fell to the ground, then fucking Boba until he bust and blew Boba Fett's helmet off with the green ooze coming out of his head. Then he searches Boba's body to find 7 bags of space cocaine which he inhaled all at once. Finally getting his buzz on, Shrek heads up the long driveway back into the woods to this address. Hooray! You made it to the end, now leave a like or Herbert won't eat tonight.